Okay, so right now, off the coast of Iran, a U.S. military blockade is officially in effect. And this isn't some small move. It's got the entire world on edge. So today, we're going to break down exactly what that means. All right, so how did we get to the brink of a major conflict? Here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with what's happening right now. Then we'll rewind a bit to see how we got here. We'll also break down what a blockade actually is, check out how it's already hitting the global economy, and finally, look at the incredibly high stakes for everyone involved. So, let's get right into it. The blockade is active. And, well, the U.S. military is making its presence known, and they are not being subtle about it. And you really got to pay attention to the language here. Military analyst Colonel Steve Warren lays it out perfectly. This isn't just a warning shot, it's a formal, official declaration. And when the military starts using words like intercepted and promises consequences, yeah, they absolutely mean business. And here's the muscle to back all that talk up. We're not talking about a couple of patrol boats, we're talking about a dozen ships. And get this, they're anchored by 2 full aircraft carriers. That is just an immense concentration of naval power. And that's not all. Overhead, you've got fighter jets and drones on constant patrol, and the radio channels, they are just crackling with one single clear message to every ship in the area. This blockade is real, and it is being enforced. Okay, so that's the what. Now for the how. How in the world did we get here? How does a situation go from tense diplomacy to a full-blown military standoff this fast? Well, it really all came to a head over the weekend. I mean, after 21 straight hours of marathon peace talks, the whole thing just collapsed. So now, the U.S. is using this blockade as a massive power play, really. The idea is to apply so much economic pain that Iran is forced back to the negotiating table, but this time with a much weaker hand. And this right here, this is the fundamental, kind of unbridgeable gap. It boils down to this. The U.S. position is that Iran must give up its right to enrich uranium, period. But Iran's position is that under international law, specifically the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Agreement, it is legally entitled to that right. And, when two sides are this far apart on such a core principle, diplomacy doesn't just stall, it shatters. Okay, but what does a military blockade actually look like on the water? What does it involve? Let's break down the mechanics of this incredibly serious action. Yeah, it's so important to get this. A blockade isn't just, parking a few ships in the way. It is, by its very definition, an act of war. And the goal is simple, and frankly, it's brutal: to economically suffocate a nation by cutting off its maritime lifeline to the rest of the world. So, this raises a pretty critical question, right? One that commanders in the Persian Gulf are grappling with at this very moment. What happens if a commercial ship from another country, let's say China, for example, decides to test this? What does enforcement actually look like? Well, the military has a playbook for exactly this scenario. It's called the escalatory ladder, and it works like this. Step 1, you get warnings over the radio. If those get ignored, Step 2, a U.S. warship suddenly appears on the horizon. Still no compliance? Okay, Step 3, a boarding party approaches. And if a ship still refuses to stop, well, that's when you get to the final and frankly terrifying step: kinetic force. That's just military speak for opening fire to disable the vessel. You can see just how fast this could spin completely out of control. Now, something like this, an action in the Persian Gulf, it doesn't just stay in the Persian Gulf. Nope, it has immediate, far-reaching consequences for the global economy and, yeah, very likely for your wallet. Look, the second you take Iranian oil off the global market, prices react instantly. We've already seen crude oil jump by about 6%. And other key fuels like heating oil and jet fuel, they're rising right alongside it. It's important to remember, oil is a global commodity, so a squeeze in one place, it's felt absolutely everywhere. And all of this, it filters down to the gas pump with, honestly, alarming speed. In the U.S., we're already seeing gas prices hit numbers like $4.13 a gallon in some places, and that's directly tied to this new uncertainty in the market. And here's the kicker. Don't expect this to be just a temporary spike. Even the White House is acknowledging that as long as this conflict drags on, these higher prices at the pump could become the new normal. So where do we go from here? What's next? The honest answer is, the whole situation is incredibly fragile. This blockade is a huge, unpredictable gamble, and right now, there is no clear endgame in sight. So how long is this going to last? Well, nobody knows. U.S. officials are calling the whole operation open-ended, which is basically code for saying they're digging in for a long-term, very costly commitment. We are not talking about days or weeks here. This could be our new reality for months, maybe even longer. Now, you might be thinking, hasn't the U.S. done this before? And yeah, they have, against countries like Venezuela. But Iran is a completely different ballgame. It's what experts are calling a much bigger set of circumstances. Why? Well, you have the sheer volume of shipping traffic, and you combine that with the presence of major global powers like China, and suddenly any attempt to enforce this blockade becomes exponentially more dangerous. And that leaves us with the exact same question that leaders and analysts are all asking themselves right now. One expert called this an experimental enlargement of the conflict in an effort to solve it. Just think about that phrase. So the question we're all left with is this: can you really solve a conflict by making it bigger? I guess we're all about to find out in real time.